I've been talking about this year's Oscars ceremony for basically a year now, which means I've been known to rattle off some really bad takes in my time. Let's just talk about 10 of those that have aged really poorly. I had a friend go through and pull my 10 worst takes slash predictions throughout the entire year. I'm sure I've said some crazy shit, so let's just kind of look back at some of the crazy shit I've said. So I got the stack right here. Let's look at the top card. Kieran Culkin will not receive an Oscar nomination for his performance in A Real Pain. This one, I think I rattled it off in like September or October, and my justification was like, let's look at the competition. Let's just see who he is up against and tell me who he is kicking out. I was thinking of people like Denzel Washington. I was thinking of performances that did end up getting nominated, like Jeremy Strong, like Yora from Anora. And I was just like, Kieran Culkin's just not making the list. And in fairness to myself, I saw this performance out of Sundance in January. And I was like, you know what? He's really good in the movie. I like what he's doing. It seems pretty familiar to what he's already been doing in Succession. I just don't think this is a real movie that people are actually going to really carry on. It felt like a movie that there was a small group championing at Sundance, and I was like, this discussion is going to fade after a while. I was wrong, and he seems to be the front runner. I don't actually know if he'll win, but he's in a good position too, so definitely wrong on that. If this is number 10, I'm really scared to see what the rest are. All right, let's see what number 9 is. Okay. I did champion this one for quite a while. Ridley Scott will win his first Oscar for Gladiator 2. I am going to defend this take as well. My justification was Ridley Scott is one of our great masters in Hollywood. He has never won an Academy Award for direction, which he obviously should have won in 2000 for Gladiator. He's having this sequel. There's been a lot of good buzz around this movie. There doesn't seem to be a clear competition this year in the director category. If this movie is pretty damn good, then Ridley Scott will just walk away with it. You know what? I really liked Gladiator 2, and apparently no one else did, and that's all your fault. Like, I really like that movie. That movie is good. I will defend that movie. I think what Ridley Scott is doing in his late 80s is really inspirational and some cool stuff from one of our oldest and grandest of directors. But obviously, this did not age well. So I'll take the L on this one. But Ridley Scott, you're always the king in my heart. All right. Coming in at number 8, we have look out for Here as a sneaky Best Picture nominee. Okay, so for those who do not know what the movie Here is, which based on the box office receipts, a lot of you probably do not know, this is a movie directed by Robert Zemeckis and stars Tom Hanks and Robin Wright. And it is shot entirely in one location. It is a fixed camera, and it's largely set in like this suburban house. And Tom Hanks and Robin Wright are the couple, and I was just like, you know what? This is a re-teaming with them. From Forrest Gump, literally, I think 30 years later. I was like, there's just a lot of nostalgia. This actually looks like something interesting from Robert Zemeckis. And this was, I think I rattled this take off. This movie premiered in November, so this just sounds like a September take that I would rattle off. And I was, sentimental about it. I saw the trailer and I'm like, oh, this actually looks kind of good. And I saw the movie and I liked the movie. It's not great, but there's a lot of interesting stuff that Zemeckis is trying with this movie, but ultimately it just doesn't come together in any way that is cohesive of earning a Best Picture nomination, and it didn't have enough fanfare. I think this is actually a decent movie from Zemeckis, who really hasn't made a great movie in 20 plus years, but Here obviously is not that. So another one I'll take the L on. Let's look at number 7 here, which what? Adam Sandler. Oh, okay. I do know what this is. Adam Sandler will receive his first Oscar nomination in 2024. And okay, just to you who are reading this and you're like, was there just a movie that Adam Sandler was supposed to appear in this year that didn't come out or got pushed? The answer is no. The movie that I thought Adam Sandler could receive his Oscar nomination for is a movie called Spaceman, which premiered on Netflix back in, I think, March, maybe February even. And I don't even think this take is actually from this year. I want to even say this might be an older take because I think this movie was originally slated to come out in 2023. And so here was my logic. Adam Sandler was an actor who had been on the rise for a second with Uncut Gems, and then Hustle actually getting him a SAG nomination, and was just like, okay, you know what? This kind of feels like a matter of time. And he's in this movie. It's called Spaceman. That's this sci-fi epic that is based on this really well-respected book premiering on Netflix, directed by some of the people behind the show Chernobyl. And I was like, you know what? This kind of feels like the right prestige project. It has Carey Mulligan. It has Paul Dano. Like, there's a lot to really like about this movie. And just, this is an advocation to go check out the movie Spaceman, which is on Netflix now. Like, it's actually a pretty, I thought, thought-provoking, fun movie from Adam Sandler. And again, just shows another side of him as a talent. But it clearly, none of you have probably heard of this movie. So this was definitely a bad take. He's going to be in a Noah Baumbach movie this year, so maybe there's chances for this take to actually be filled out in 2025. But take the L on that one as well. Number 6. This is fair, but like I think a lot of us had this one wrong. Saoirse Ronan will be a dual nominee for the Outrun and Blitz. Like I said, I have a feeling this actually wasn't that hot of a take. Maybe like October. Before a lot of us got to see the film Blitz, which I think was ultimately the key for this one being a bad prediction, was Blitz won 0 nominations. And it was for a lot of people, maybe even a heavy contender to win Best Picture. Ultimately, I saw both of these films and I disliked both of them. And I actually disliked Ronan's performance in both of the movies. I didn't think she worked really well in the Outrun, and I thought she was very underused in Blitz. I didn't really care for either of these films. I found them both very slow and a bit of a drag to watch. This is just the case of I bought into the legacy of who this actress is. I had heard enough positive things about the Outrun out of Sundance, although I didn't see it at the festival. And it was like Steve McQueen in Blitz, like this heartfelt indie drama about a person struggling with addiction, and then this war epic directed by one of our great directors. Like, that just seems like a perfect combo. She gets the lead, she gets the supporting. This could be the year that really comes her way. Obviously, it did not materialize that way. And I think it's just ultimately due to the strength of the movies, or I should say the non-strength of both movies, that I just found quite poor. But like I said, I have a feeling, and let me know in the comments below, but I have a feeling a lot of you may have had a similar prediction to this. So I don't even feel that bad about that one. Number 5. Okay. That's, again, is that a bad take? I don't know. Saturday Night will be the crowd pleaser of the Oscar crop. So let me just say, I don't think this is a bad take for people who watch the movie Saturday Night. The issue is not a lot of people ended up seeing that movie. And from my understanding, it actually just premiered on Netflix. So I have a feeling we'll get a little bit of a boost for that. Like, there's probably going to be a bunch of people who watch and like this movie. Ultimately, you know, I had heard all the buzz out of TIFF, or maybe it was Telluride. It was one of the true film festivals. And people really seem to be digging this movie. And I know there was a lot of online making fun of this movie, like Jason Reitman doesn't make good movies. Like, Jason Reitman makes a lot of really fun movies. And I thought of a film like Juno. I thought of a film like Up in the Air. I'm like, okay, you know what? This guy has a technique of a direction that has lended itself to get Oscar acclaim. And I'm just like, Saturday Night, it's entering its 50th year. It is this monument. There's so many people who have a close relationship with Saturday Night. This has this Aaron Sorkin feel in the script. Like, it has an incredible score that actually got completely ignored, which is actually a travesty. That score by John Batiste is really good in that film. This is just the case of not enough people saw this movie. And I know some people saw this movie and disliked it. I thought it was a really fun film. I personally would have probably advocated for a movie like Saturday Night to get a bigger push, but oh well. Again, I'll take the L on that one. Number 4, Toni Collette is the dark horse contender for Juror number 2. I did say this. I remember rattling off this take. And I think this take came out right after I saw the movie, which I saw in November. Maybe it was like right before I was about to see the movie. I think it was right after I had seen the movie because I was really high on the Toni Collette performance in Juror number 2. And here was my logic. And I actually think there is some sound logic behind this hot take. It was simply one, the performance is really good in a movie that I found really good. And I was thinking of Richard Jewell in 2019, which was a movie that didn't receive a ton of Oscar nominations, but it received one critical one. And that was the Kathy Bates performance as Richard Jewell's mother in that movie. And I was just like, you know what? Like, I remember people being surprised by that performance and that nomination in 2019 during that year's award race. And I was just like, Toni Collette, well-respected actress, has never won. This is probably going to be Clint Eastwood's last movie. Like, I don't think the best supporting actress race was particularly strong this year. Like, I thought there was a lot of just question marks and a lot of performances that I ultimately am still kind of questioning if they deserved it. I'm looking at you, Isabella Rossellini. But I was just like, you know what? That opens the room for a veteran like Toni Collette to come in here for a Clint Eastwood movie. Now, ultimately, the thing was, Warner Brothers just completely ignored and dismissed Juror number 2. And at that point, there was nothing I could do. This film did not receive any push. This is a take that obviously aged badly. I have a feeling in 5 years, there will be like a contingency of people who are like, Jury number 2 is really good. This should have received more love at the time. And we took Clint Eastwood for granted. And Warner Brothers will never forgive you for that one. So an L on my part, but not the worst. I actually think that is a pretty good take that maybe should have materialized. Number 3. This is really funny. It just says Megalopolis on it. Okay. I had a lot of takes about Megalopolis before seeing the movie. I remember I always do right after the award ceremony that this year happened in March. I always do a video where it's like the way too early contenders. And I have a feeling I'll have a few more takes out of that video coming up in a second. But one of the ones that I remember talking about was Megalopolis. And the reason I talked about it, because it was like, you know what? This is Francis Ford Coppola coming back. Like, this is him making a film that he has always dreamed of making. This is his passion project. He sold his vineyard, like his wine, to like make this movie. And like, this is probably going to be his last movie. He's making it with complete creative directorial control. Like, he is really pushing for this movie. It has a great cast. Like, there is so much to be interested in this movie. And I have a feeling artists will respond to this movie. And then I remember in September, I saw the movie, and right before the movie, there was quite literally a 40-minute conversation that feels like a fever dream, but it's with Francis Ford Coppola, a New York Film Festival critic, and Robert De Niro and Spike Lee. And the way Spike Lee spoke about Megalopolis, I was just like, oh, like this film really does have the respect of filmmakers. And then I saw the movie and I was confounded by the movie. I'm like, that's a bizarre movie, but I also like appreciated some of the audacious qualities of Megalopolis. So I was just like, you know what? Like, even I remember saying this at the end of September after seeing the movie, where I'm just like, let's not sleep on Francis Ford Coppola just yet. Like, let's really see what the audience has to say about this movie. It really doesn't matter if the critics are against this movie. Well, clearly that ended up being a bad take. This movie's kind of ridiculed. And I think it's a little too bad. Like, I think this movie is deserving of more conversation and more actual critical engagement than it received. But it is impossible to deny that this movie just kind of got memified real quick, especially some of the scenes that ended up trending on TikTok. But so ultimately, yeah, Megalopolis, bad take. Number 2, I might know what both of these takes are. Number 2, I have, Jesus, Horizon, An American Saga could reinvent how we look at movies. Never sleep on Kevin Costner. Okay. This one's bad. This one is a really poorly aged take. Okay, this is horrendous. So, when did I say this? So the movie came out in the summer, which means the only time I really talked about Oscar nominations or Oscar predictions would have been right after that last year's ceremony. So this must have been in my way too early predictions list. So here must have been my logic. And now that I've seen Horizon Chapter 1, I'm like kind of struggling to think what the logic must have been. But ultimately, I just must have been like, hey, like, you know what? Like, Kevin Costner's betted on himself, and he's often won that bet. And he is an actor who ended up becoming a director, who ended up making Dances with Wolves. And what if Horizon and American Saga finds its audience, kind of reinvents Westerns and the way that we distribute movies? And like, ultimately, I kind of remember having this take. I'm like, the thing that might hurt Horizon Chapter 1 is the Academy won't know which one to nominate. I was like, well, because, you know, they could nominate Chapter 1, Chapter 2. Yeah, they didn't go for either. And I saw the movie, and I liked the movie, and it's a TV show. Even with a sizzle reel to end Chapter 1. This one is such a poorly aged take, and me betting on a director / actor with a huge ego, and an ego that I will always love, and an ego that I will always respond to, but an ego nonetheless. This one's a horrendous take, which leaves number 1, which I know what this one has to be. It has to be related to Joker Folie and Deux. Yep. Lady Gaga. What's it say? Lady Gaga is the front runner to win an Oscar for her performance as Harley Quinn in Joker Folie and Deux. See that? Read that closely. Okay. This is a bad take. And I'm wearing my Batman shirt. I kind of knew this one was coming because I remember even getting on argument threads with people on Reddit about this, where I was just like, why are you guys not taking Lady Gaga seriously as a threat to win Best Supporting Actress for playing Harley Quinn? Like, we already gave it to Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. Lady Gaga is well respected within the Academy. Like, look what she did with A Star Is Born. Look what she's done with her Oscar-nominated songs. Like, the Academy clearly has this love relationship with Lady Gaga. Like, we already know that Joaquin Phoenix got his. Why can't she get hers? And to be honest, I think that's a really sound bit of logic to do pre-seeing a movie. And I saw Joker Folie and Deux, and I remember thinking while watching that movie, I'm like, Lady Gaga is like not really good in this movie, and I don't really understand this character, and maybe she actually isn't the front runner to win it, but maybe she could get nominated. And then by the end of the film, I'm like, this is starting to feel wrong, and it's wrong, and it's because it's a bad take, and it's very well deserving of my worst take of the Oscar season now that we now know all the nominees. So that's deserving. Those are 10 pretty bad takes. Let me know what your guys' worst takes were. I'm very curious to know. But thank you all for watching this video. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And again, tell me what your worst takes are, or if you agreed with any of my takes and were like, no, that was sound logic. I thought the same thing. I want to know everything. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.